This is Duke University.
Well, I also am using PowerPoint because my thesis is you look for the blind spots in a culture. You look for the origins of prejudice, not with the wild-eyed crazies on the margins, but with mainstream expertise about what religious symbols mean. And that's why I had the homework up on the screen before, just to get you thinking about how culturally defined our idea of a covered head was. And of course, I left out the most obvious parallel because it is so obvious, and that is the nun. I could have had 4 pictures of nuns up there too. But let me back up from this, and all those issues that Jane just mentioned appear in a case study, a series of case studies with the European Court of Human Rights, the largest and oldest human rights court in the world. But let me back up from that for a minute and ask, what's the tradition of human rights jurisprudence? It doesn't protect the strong. I won't mention any recent Supreme Court decisions, but we notice that law, secular law, often protects the strong, the powerful institutions against the weak. Catholic canon law traditionally protects the weak, and I think that may be true of Sharia also. Canon law protects the weak against the strong, protects people who have no other way of being protected. So that's one point. The second point, general point, is why is our Western civilization so superior to all other civilizations in the world? Oh, gee, that sounds like a Seder, doesn't it? It was just a few nights ago. Anyway, why is our Western law different from any other law? Because Western law protects the individual, the autonomous individual, not as a serf. An individual's rights are guaranteed not as based on gender, on economic status, serf, employee, nobility, bishop. So we're superior because we judge individual autonomy at the core. Okay, so what's the ECHR? The European Court of Human Rights is not an European Union organization. It began before the earliest signs of the EU. It was written in 1948. It was ratified by 47 countries in the Council of Europe. And that includes, you'll notice, Turkey. Turkey is a member of the Council of Europe. This is the 2008 map of the Council of Europe. And we see accommodation at work in the legal writing of the convention. We see, well, come on. Oh, no. Oh, come on, you're supposed to come up here. Here we go. To both guarantee human rights and specify limitations. The rights are usually to the individual. The limitations are based on danger, or putative danger, to the majority. So already the themes of this workshop are embedded in this very early document. Okay. I'm going to talk about one article of the 1950 convention because that's the year it was written. It was finalized and went out for ratification. Article 9, number 2. And here you see this. Everyone has the right, but there's a limitation. Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes the freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom, either alone or in community with others and in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in worship, teaching, practice, and observance. Freedom to manifest one's religion or beliefs shall be subject only, and here's the limitations, to such limitations as are prescribed by law and are necessary in a democratic society in the interests of public safety, for the protection of public order, health, or morals, or the protection of the rights and freedoms of others. And I'm going to position the jurisprudence related to Muslim headscarves in public places against the jurisprudence connected to the crucifix in public institutions in Catholic majority countries. Okay. Now let me just start with 4 examples. In 1993, Sene Karaduman just did not want to have her graduation photo taken without her hijab. And so she couldn't graduate.
What country?
Don't ask. I'm going to ask you. Just a minute. From 1992, a medical student, Leila Sahin, wore her hijab to class. Then her university passed a ban against the headscarf. In 1998, she was expelled. She was not grandmothered in other words. In 1991, Lucia Dalab, a tenured primary school teacher, decided to wear her hijab to class. Her tenure didn't count, she was fired. In 1999, Belgin Dorgu and Esma Kervanchi, ages 11 and 12, were forced to remove their hijab for physical education classes because it would have endangered their health to wear their hijab. Jane already asked the question, where do you think these decisions were made? Turkey? France? Where? Okay, the first two were made in Turkey, and in every case, the last two, the Geneva was the Dalab decision, and the last was a French decision. In every case, the European Court of Human Rights upheld their suspension, even though in none of these cases was any expert called to testify about the meaning of the hijab. In no case did any other third party complain about the presence of their hijab in their environment. And in no case was the woman who wore the headscarf asked about her own beliefs. The headscarf itself was taken as an act of communication that, and there I'll stop, the meaning of which was culturally determined. Now, I just want to say before going into a French case study of how the meaning was shaped, that in the European Court of Human Rights is tough as you can imagine on all kinds of issues. It's guaranteed, it's upheld the rights of minorities to express their identity however they want, gays, lesbians, transsexuals, Salvation Army, other Christian organizations, you name it. The court upheld the right to proselytize. So Jehovah's Witnesses were allowed to establish a prayer room. This happened to be in Greece because it was held, the court held that wearing a headscarf in itself was proselytization. I can't resist just one example. If I got into the examples, I'd use up all my time. But in the Geneva case, she's a primary teacher, a jolly-looking person who wore a lovely red, actually loose-fitting garments and a red headscarf. Young children in their tender years, that's the language of the court, in their tender years, young children would be bound to be influenced because she couldn't avoid mentioning why she wore her headscarf. In the court's ruling, it contained more or less this wording. Well, if kids asked her why she covers her head, she couldn't exactly say, I'm allergic to drafts. She would have to say she was Muslim, and therefore she would violate her obligation as an employee of the state to be neutral religiously. Okay. So, other tough decisions they made, the judges refused to consider as offensive inflammatory IRA speech advocating murder of the enemy during the Troubles in Northern Ireland, like yelling fire in a crowded theater. It also overturned particularly egregious aspects of British search and seizure law after 9/11. So this is a tough court. Its decisions are getting generally tougher, and its power is getting generally stronger as it's expanding. And as the cases coming before it are stronger and stronger. Okay, now think also we've done the where, we've done the who. What about the when? Since I'm a historian, I have to bring this up. What about the when? it's interesting, isn't it? They're all before 9/11. But they are before 9/11 and after the Cold War. Yeah. Okay. Now, here's the comparison. 2002, a mother, Soli Lautsi, objected to the crucifix in her son's classroom in public school. She happened to be from Finland. Public school was in Italy. And she objected that seeing the crucifix on the wall could be offensive to people who were not Catholics, Protestants, Muslims, atheists like herself. So she brought a complaint. The response of the Northern Italian government was to revive a 1937 law that forced a crucifix to be in every classroom. 1937, Mussolini law brought up in it. Okay. And in 2004, the state made the crucifix mandatory. Okay. And in 2009, the ECHR upheld the right of the crucifix. Okay. So, knowledge, not bigotry, not overt hatred and fear, creates what we call blind spots. For example, here's a standard definition. I've come across this in 5 or 6 places. If you want to know what a hijab is, here it is. Hijab. Look at those women. Do they look happy? None of them do. Is there very much difference? No, you would never know from this that a hijab covers basically your neck and shoulders, and then you dress like you would dress after that. They all look alike. So, compared with this picture of what is a hijab. And I'd like to recommend an absolutely wonderful book published this year called Blind Spot, The Hidden Biases of Good People, published by 2 Harvard professors who explain the way, but in a social science way, how it is that knowledge shapes our blind spots. Okay, take a look at this. I'm doing 2 things here. I'm giving you the quick demographic of countries with large Muslim populations, but read this graph. What's the graphic here saying to you? We have to learn to read visuals as critically as we read print text.
Beware the caliphate.
Yeah, look at that. Surrounding, there's the circle. And then you have terms like birth, dearth among white Europeans. Okay. All right. So we're going to start with one example, and that's all I have time for. A little town, mostly immigrant, north of Paris. 3 girls, 2 sisters, 1 other girl, teenagers, decided they wear their hijabs to class. They always had. And the principal suspended them. Here they are with their backs to us. The principal said, it's outrageous to let these girls cover their heads. France is a secular nation since 1905. Our schools were created in the Enlightenment tradition and liberated from religious fanaticism long ago. In this slum, understood, school with 850 students who speak 25 different languages at home, secularism, neutrality is the only hope for promoting equality. Principal Ernest Chenier. But the previous fall, he had tried unsuccessfully to force Jewish kids, 30 of them, to go to school on Saturday. And they defied him, and he failed. Jewish boys wore the kippah, the yarmulke. Sikh boys wore a turban. Christians wore crosses. Was Chenier a racist? Yes, said 2 anti-racist organizations. But when you look visually, you learn something that you didn't know otherwise. Chenier himself, because the French are so prejudiced, I didn't say that. Oh my God, we're on video. Because of widespread public opinion in France, Chenier looked about as foreign as the girls. His parents were from the Caribbean, and he was dyed-in-the-wool French raised, but to have one minority attack another minority makes bigotry more acceptable in certain circumstances. Had he been a white, BCBG, really proper person, he wouldn't have had the resonance. Okay, so here we are. Here's how they are depicted in the school. There we are. Okay, so these girls who dress in jeans and regular clothes from the neck down were only pictured with their headscarves, prominent, so that they looked like women with chadors. And in fact, the word the French used was chador. And I think I am going to, well, let me see, this is a faulty video, so let me just see if it's going to work. It did yesterday. Yeah.
Philippe.
Right. Why isn't this working today?
Yes.
It is in French. Now, why is the sound not working? We didn't do a sound check today. Catherine and I did a sound check yesterday, and it worked fine.
Catherine to the rescue.
Stop it. Start it.
Qui désigne le voile noir que
Okay, I'm going to go back forward. I'm going to go forward. The point is, he's defining a hijab, and these are pictures of the Iranian Revolution from 19... You know what? We're just going to the next one. This whole clip, and it's only 60 seconds, defines the hijab based on the Iranian Revolution and other examples of deeply religious conservatives, as if there's no difference. Okay, let's try this one. No, we don't have the audio today. Oh, I came here yesterday especially to get the audio to work, and it's. Oh, you think maybe? Oh, it's right. We weren't running it off my computer yesterday. Okay, maybe I muted my sound. I don't think so, but let me try it.
It was kind of coming through in the last clip, but it was just stuttering. So
Okay. Okay. Let me just look. Help me out here. Where's my sound? Sound.
Yeah, right with the bars.
No, I think that's my. You think? Oh, I should have done this before. Jeez.
Try this speaker down there. The one to the right.
Oh, there we go. I bet I muted it. No.
It's not.
All right. Can you do what you can do, and I'll just play it, and I'll do the voiceover, and hope it plays? Goes to show you should just never feel confident.
It's loading.
Yeah, it shouldn't take that long to load either. Okay, this is a march on the 22nd of October in downtown Paris. Meanwhile, the situation with the three girls is already settled. This is a march of 700 people maximum in downtown Paris, where 150,000 demonstrators is nothing. Can you give us more volume? Oh, you think it's there?
Yeah.
That's pretty high. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to go back to here. Sorry. I'm going to go back and get it. Come on.
I have it turned up, but from my end,
We
it's
invite everybody
Okay.
to get another cup of coffee.
No, it's not going to take that long. I just have to go through this.
Wait, I was tweeting this at #religious freedom, and Abdullah's watching.
Oh, okay, great.
It is, before he has his peace talks.
Before he settles the whole issue.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, now we're not going to do him, we don't have time. But let's try her. Okay, so a tiny splinter group that supported the fatwa against Salman Rushdie the previous February staged a march in downtown Paris that exemplified the media merger of headscarves with chadors. And watch how it happens. People, this is the kind of subtle thing viewers don't realize. Sites like these are seldom seen in Paris. I've heard the video, I've heard the piece before. And this is the 8 o'clock evening news on the Sunday of October 22nd. Notice the prominence of women. There were 45 women at the head of the march carrying these signs, confusing signs of religion, and featuring the girls. Notice these 5, 6, 7-year-old girls wearing full chadors. Hi, Lori. And notice the linkage with the men. So this was an Oriental mob, tiny, minuscule demonstration, 700, 800 people, but it made a huge impact. Notice the date. What else is happening in well, we'll go further on. This is one picture that was so confusing. What is she? What is she? The Madonna, doesn't she? The Virgin Mary, because Mary is mentioned more often in the Quran than she is in the New Testament. And what's she holding? She's holding a peace dove. And she's clad in dark blue instead of light blue. So here we have, and what does this say? How the crusade for re-Islamization works. So from the beginning, not of one little local headscarf debate, but from the visual presence of Muslims on the screens of millions of French watchers, the idea was born that a headscarf equals a radical danger. A left-wing magazine carried twice as many articles on the topic as the conservative counterpart. This was a left-wing crusade more than a right. Why?
Religion is the opium of the masses.
No. No, not quite. Conservatives just frankly hated Islam. They were quite obviously hostile. Liberals are supposed to be tolerant. So the liberals use the headscarf that oppresses women as their cause célèbre. So defending Muslim women by forcing them to take off their headscarf, which was an old colonial trope from 100 years earlier, became the leitmotif. Okay, now, I don't want you to think that the French lost their sense of humor in this. The whole country's going crazy. 3 headscarves. At the most, I counted 24 headscarves all over France. There are 100, how many, gosh, there's something like 3 million students in France. So, what's going on? That is Madame Mitterrand. François Mitterrand, the president, didn't say a word about this, but Madame Mitterrand made the comment, if France is going to be thrown apart, 6 months after the second centennial, 200th anniversary of the French Revolution, if a few headscarves are going to tear France apart, then our country's not in very good shape. She was a notorious chain smoker, and so there she is with a bomb over her head. There's an even worse one of her. And I'll
The
just,
juxtaposition of the bomb and the hijab is interesting though, too. You know, it's like, it's so direct, the other one's implied.
that's right. That's
In your
right.
face.
So in your face. This is a school that has different entrances for different kinds of people. So the public school will have one group of Muslims, another group of Catholics, another group of supposedly others. The one at the bottom is from Le Monde, and it shows the influence of the mosque pervading the French school. And then here's another one with that motif, and there's a lot of this is very common, of a bomb under a hijab. So this is panic. And then they laughed also. This one, the wife is coming out of her shower with a towel over her head, and the husband is saying, ah, it's a hijab, and she's a foulard. And she's saying, you dope, I just washed my hair. This is a girl, same cartoonist, a teenager going off to school, and the father says, well, you can't go to school dressed like that. Ah, says the girl, they don't worry about how scantily I'm dressed, they worry about the chador. And this is my favorite one. Look at this. The Imam. Come on, come, fall into my trap. Get hysterical about the hijab, and you know that this is France charging because look what she has on her head, her French bonnet. Now, what is happening during these same months? This is fall 1989. What is happening elsewhere in the world? South Africa. Mandela is starting to become, they're thinking about releasing him from jail. What else? The Berlin Wall is coming down. Khrushchev is negotiating with non-communists. The world at Tiananmen Square was just 8 months before. The world is changing, and the French headlines are hysterical about a dozen girls wearing a headscarf in public schools. And here's another one that I like too. Notice, this is in the leading French satirical magazine. Lots of noise about the headscarf, but notice, who's being mocked here are priests and imams, not secular fundamentalists who want to throw the veil out of schools. Okay, here it goes, and the whole thing repeats, happens again in 1994. There's another hysterical, the right wing sees the headscarf as a plot, I should say, hasten to say, French judges said, come on, these girls have fundamental French rights. They're citizens. Of course they can wear their headscarves to school as long as they're not ostentatious. So the courts absolutely upheld the right of kids to wear their headscarf. Another round, 1994, the right wing says it's a plot. And the liberals say it oppresses women. Still, the courts prevailed. It's fine. They keep their rights until 2004, after 9/11, when ostentatious symbols, crosses, Sikh turbans, and headscarves are banned from public schools in France. Here's a protest. In 2010, the niqab full-face veil was banned. Okay, now let's look quickly at the crucifix. How did the support for the for the crucifix mobilize? Well, first of all, the Vatican opened a Facebook immediately, a Facebook page. Within 24 hours, it had 23,000 signatures. The Minister of Education under Berlusconi said, no one, not even some ideologically motivated European court, is going to succeed in rubbing out our identity, unquote. 10 member states, unprecedented, joined Italy to lobby against the ban against the crucifix. And in March 2011, the High Chamber of the European Court of Human Rights overturned its earlier decision to uphold the ban on the crucifix and upheld the law requiring a crucifix in every Italian public school. Why? Because crucifixes suddenly they lost their religion. And they became part of the Italian Western heritage. They were not religious symbols at all. In fact, without Christianity, the Enlightenment could not have even happened. Forget the Inquisition, forget everything else you learned about Catholic history. So here we have a contrast between the headscarf and the crucifix. And what we have here is an example of how the lingering Christian, and I'm saying Christian, not Judeo-Christian. Judeo was added out of guilt after the Holocaust. The Christian tradition's rivalry against its two other monotheistic Abrahamic religious competitors has embedded its doctrine so deeply in European culture that the rights of individual Muslims have been violated. The most powerful human rights court in the world fails to accommodate the rights of a devout double minority, women Muslims. Thank you.
Thank you.